Hello and welcome to our Sunday evening's newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let us begin with our first story. South Korea's presidential office held a press briefing on Sunday following President Park Geun-hye's week-long diplomacy trip, which was overshadowed by North Korea's fifth nuclear test. The president's efforts over the past week to convey the urgency of Pyongyang's threats is expected to help bring about faster and stronger action from the international community. Song Ji-sun starts us off.
The presidential office underlined President Park's efforts on the international stage to convey the urgency and gravity of North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. It was a theme the president carried through the Eastern Economic Forum in Russia, the G20 in China, and the ASEAN summit in Laos, as well as their bilateral talks with the US, Japan, China, and Russia.
Seoul has continuously kept an eye on signs of a possible nuclear test by Pyongyang, and the president's diplomacy on the international stage during her latest trip has proven a key source of momentum for strengthening global cooperation to reinforce the pressure on North Korea after its fifth nuclear test.
President Park was promptly in contact with the leaders of the US and Japan soon after the nuke test. And the top office noted that this kind of coordination on various levels enables faster joint countermeasures against Pyongyang's threats.
Based on the close partnership and cooperation built during the latest trip, the South Korean government will make all diplomatic and military efforts to counter North Korea's continued provocation, including this fifth nuclear test and its explicit violation of UN Security Council resolutions.
Seoul has reiterated its message that Pyongyang's neglect of its people and its obsession with its nuclear and missile programs will only lead to economic difficulties and further isolation for the regime, eventually ending its self-destruction. President Park Geun-hye will sit down with the leaders of the three political parties on Monday for the first time since the 20th National Assembly kicked off to share the fruit of her trip and seek their cooperation to jointly counter North Korea's nuclear threats. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
The South Korean military has devised an operation plan that could, quote, wipe Pyongyang off the map in the event of conflict. It involves preemptive bombing when signs of an imminent nuclear attack are detected. Woo Se-young has the details.
According to a military source on Sunday, South Korea's defense ministry has reported its plan, dubbed Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation to the National Assembly. The concept is to launch preemptive bomb strikes on a certain area of Pyongyang, targeting Kim Jong-un and the military leadership if the regime shows signs of using its nuclear weapons. The South would use high explosive shells as well as its homegrown ballistic missiles, including the Hyunmoo 2A, 2B and 3, which have respective ranges of 300, 500 and 1,000 kilometers. The military aims to complete launch testing by the end of next year and expand the Hyunmoo lineup. Also, as a show of force against the North, South Korea and the United States will conduct joint naval exercises next month to simulate the targeting of major military facilities in the event of war. The US will deploy the USS Ronald Reagan, the flagship of one of its carrier strike groups. The nuclear-powered aircraft carrier can carry up to 80 combat fighters and aircraft and a crew of more than 5,000. The defense contingency measures come amid concerns expressed by the American media about the growing possibility of the North's missiles reaching the US mainland. On Saturday, the Wall Street Journal remarked on the North's fast-paced nuclear development, saying that, quote, the rogue regime will soon have an arsenal that can hit Chicago. The New York Times also highlighted the dangers, suggesting that the North will have the know-how to develop a nuclear warhead by the year 2020. Woo Se-young, Arirang News.
Vessels belonging to Hanjin Shipping have been allowed to unload their cargo at a port in the U.S. after being stranded offshore, unable to pay their fees. The bankruptcy courts let the shipper free up money for the dock workers and have protected the ships from being seized by creditors. Lee Min-young reports.
A Hanjin container ship that had been sitting off the coast of California for more than a week amid concerns it could be seized by creditors started to unload its cargo on Saturday local time. According to Reuters, the Hanjin Greece, one of several vessels unable to dock in Long Beach, was the first to come into port and began unloading after U.S. and Korean bankruptcy court allowed the shipper to spend about $10 million to pay local workers and other fees. Hanjin Shipping has also been given provisional court protection in the U.S. to stop its ships from being seized by creditors. 3 more Hanjin container ships are waiting to dock after the Greece. Meanwhile, Hanjin Shipping's biggest shareholder, Korean Air, has approved a $54.2 million payments to its affiliate on the condition the shipper puts up collateral. Earlier in the week, parent company Hanjin Group pledged over $96 million to its struggling shipping arm. Hanjin appears on course to solve the immediate problem of getting its cargo moving again, but it will eventually have to face much more fundamental concerns. Debt crises like the one affecting Hanjin normally cause serious harm to the credibility of a shipping company. If distributors suddenly have to replace Hanjin with another shipping company, they will face huge expenses not only in freight charges but during the docking procedure, leading to an overall increase in logistics costs.
Hanjin Shipping offers services completed in 3 days, while foreign shippers usually take 5 to 7 days. It's a huge loss for us if we have to wait nearly a week after unloading at the dock.
For now, Hanjin's container vessels won't be stranded at sea, but it faces an uphill battle to recover its damaged reputation and its confidence. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
Major airlines are banning passengers from using the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 following reports of the device's battery exploding or catching fire. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has warned travelers against turning on, charging, or stopping the Note 7, the first time the agency has singled out a specific brand and product. Numerous airline companies have also urged their passengers to turn off their phablets and refrain from plugging them in during their stay in the cabin. Cathay Pacific, based in Hong Kong, is the latest to enforce a ban prohibiting travelers from storing the smartphone even in their checked baggage. The United Nations envoy has urged Oxy-Racket Benkiser to share the lessons it learned from the toxic humidifier disinfectant case in Korea with the international community to prevent such a scandal from ever happening again. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and Hazardous Substances, Baskar Tunchak, released an official report on his visit to Korea last year for an investigation into that tragedy. It was released ahead of the 33rd session of the UN Human Rights Council scheduled to be held on Tuesday local time. In the report, he stressed that an effective remedy requires both compensation for harm as well as preventive measures. This marks the first time a UN Special Rapporteur has called upon a specific company that caused environmental problems to provide compensation to the victims. The United States, Russia, and China, the world's most powerful navies, are set to begin large-scale naval exercises in Asia starting Monday. China and Russia will hold their joint maneuvers in the South China Sea, while the U.S. drill will take place near Guam in the Western Pacific. China has called the drill with Russia a routine exercise to deepen military cooperation. All three powers have made a point to steer clear of each other, but analysts say there are clear undertones of countering the influence of the United States in the region where Beijing has territorial disputes with its neighbors. According to China's defense ministry, the exercise will include, quote, island taking, among other activities. U.S. drills named Valiant Shield will involve 180 aircraft and some 18,000 personnel led by the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan, based out of Japan. 15 years ago this Sunday, Americans woke up to the news that their nation was under attack. On September 11, 2001, nearly 3,000 people were killed when terrorists hijacked passenger jets and crashed them into the World Trade Center in New York City, the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and into a field in rural Pennsylvania. Memorials were set to be held Sunday at the sites where those lives were taken. At Ground Zero in Manhattan, the first moment of silence will be held at 8:46 a.m. local time, the time when the first plane hit the North Tower. Houses of worship in the city will toll their bells, and the families of the victims will read out the names of those killed. Presidential candidates Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are expected to be in Ground Zero to pay their respects as well. South Korea and Japan are hoping to dramatically clear up the congested air traffic between the two starting next year. On Sunday, Korea's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport and Japan's Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism held their 11th meeting on the matter to come up with possible solutions. The two sides agreed to work on ways to change flight paths, radar systems, automated alerts, and information sharing systems. The measures come amid delays and other inconveniences caused to passengers by the rapidly increasing air traffic between Korea and Japan. Since 2011, the number of flights each year between the two countries has jumped 7.1%, with last year's total coming in at over 675,000. With the 3-day Chuseok or Thanksgiving holiday week coming up here in Korea, the nation is expected to see bumper-to-bumper traffic as people travel to visit their relatives. And with that traffic, a big rise in accidents as well. According to data compiled by the Korea Insurance Development Institute, between 2013 and 2015, the week of Chuseok saw the daily average of traffic accidents rise by more than 22% to over 14,000 per day, while Chuseok Day itself saw a near 3% rise. The General Insurance Association of Korea advises making frequent stops during long trips, staying more alert when in unfamiliar areas, and getting vehicles inspected before starting the Chuseok journey, as those checks are free of charge during the holiday period. During Chuseok, the traditional Korean holiday, Koreans make a wish upon the moon, and it looks like one of the largest full moon can be expected during the holidays. According to the Korea Astronomy and Space Science Institute, a fairly round moon will become visible on the 15th, and it will be at its fullest and brightest at 4 a.m. of the 17th Korea time. Looking at the temperatures now, Seoul, Daejeon, and Cheongju will all start Monday at 20. The mercury will rise to 29 in all three parts of the nation, and all-day rain can be expected in Gangneung, Busan, and Dokdo. Let's check out the weather conditions in your neck of the woods and around the world. That's all from us for now. Thank you for watching.